When Mercury moves through Scorpio, every word becomes a spell. It's able to reveal, to heal, or to wound. In this video, we're going to explore Mercury in Scorpio at 3 levels: how it manifests on the global collective stage, how it impacts us personally when it's transiting our charts, and what it means if you were born with Mercury in Scorpio in your natal chart. Along the way, we'll explore the pros and the cons, plus concrete ways to work with and embody this energy. If we haven't met yet, I am Patricia, your spiritual awakening coach and founder of the Cosmic Energy Academy for Sacred Changemakers. All right, let's get into it. Mercury represents thought, language, and perception, ideas, beliefs, our mental processes. It's how we connect the dots, how we share information and communicate meaning. In Scorpio, Mercury is drawn into the depths. The airy messenger dives down into the watery realm of intensity, secrecy, and transformation. In this form of Mercury, it is the psychopomp, the guide between worlds. Here, words and thoughts act like scalpels, sharp, precise, sometimes painful, but ultimately designed to bring healing and regeneration. When Mercury moves through Scorpio, the collective conversation shifts. This is when societies are less interested in politeness. You might have noticed this out in the world on your day-to-day meanderings, or superficial chatter, no small talk, and more focused on uncovering what is real. What is really under the surface? So what do we see globally? We'll see intensified communication, things like public debates, sharpening, revealing those deeper truths. We will see investigative energy, looking for hidden information, things surfacing from journalism, from research, from exposure of secrets will be thriving. We see taboo topics coming up to be discussed. Collectively, we begin talking about death or trauma, sexuality, shadow issues that normally stay hidden. We have more transformative dialogue, these conversations that can catalyze social change and healing. So an example might be that during a Mercury in Scorpio transit, you might see more headlines about financial corruption, scandals being exposed, or public conversations about collective trauma like abuse scandals or systemic injustice. Think of moments when one truth teller's words shifted the cultural narrative. That is what it's like when we're in this Mercury in Scorpio period, these periods. Now, the cons of this are, too much Mercury in Scorpio can become things like weaponized words, propaganda, manipulation, or the strategic framing of narratives, which I believe we are definitely seeing some of right now. We see more polarization because conversations become so charged that they divide rather than heal. We see fear of exposure. So institutions or individuals might double down on their secrecy, really intensifying the distrust. And so what are solutions to this? One thing to remember, the beauty of the way the cosmos works is that it's all cyclical. What comes also goes. What goes up must come down. So this too shall pass, right? It will also come again. But while we're in a Mercury and Scorpio transit, some things to keep in mind are discernment, fact check. I mean, we should always be doing this, but it might be more important during these periods. Fact check, seek sources of integrity, tell truth with compassion, right? So calling out abuse and corruption, but without dehumanizing others. And shadow integration, so important. This is about using exposures as opportunities for growth rather than only outrage. How can this benefit the global collective? How can this situation or this truth I've just found out about, how can this help me grow, help my souls grow, and in doing so, help the collective as well? Those are the types of ways we should be looking at what's going on around us during these times. Okay, how about the personal experience? How can this affect you personally? when Mercury is transiting through Scorpio. On an individual level, Mercury in Scorpio changes the way we think and speak. So what we might find during these times is our mental focus, it changes. So it might even be easier to concentrate deeply because Scorpio is about going down into the depths and rooting stuff up. So we can concentrate more easily and we can research more thoroughly. We might be having deeper conversations, feeling that pull to have more powerful intimacy through real, honest dialogues with others. We might be more perceptive. We have heightened intuition and that ability to kind of read what's not being said, read between the lines. Healing words. We have the potential for transformative or therapeutic conversations. So an example might be that you suddenly feel called to have the talk you've been avoiding in a relationship, maybe finally putting words to something that's been bothering you, something that's been buried. Or you might find yourself obsessed with researching something, genealogy, psychology, or something more spiritual or esoteric subjects with this kind of laser intensity, very scorpionic. Now, the cons to this could be overthinking, getting caught in these obsessive mental loops, ruminating, leading into paranoia, even over intensity, like coming across as probing or suspicious or intimidating in conversations. Manipulation risk, using words tactically to control outcomes. Or just those kind of verbal stings, think of the tail of a scorpion, those words that just kind of cut more deeply than intended. So we need to be aware of the impact we have when we're speaking. Remember that words carry weight. We need to choose them with care, and even more so during a Mercury and Scorpio transit. We can channel our focus. So pour all that obsessive energy into research, journaling, or therapy rather than a fixation on others. Practicing vulnerability. We can balance secrecy with openness when it's safe to do so. And releasing control. Let conversations be about sharing, not winning. All right. Now, what if you are one of the lucky people that have Mercury in Scorpio in your natal chart? If you don't know your chart, I offer consultations. So down below is a link to my premium cosmic energy consultation. And I'd love to discover that with you and find out more about where your Mercury is and how it affects you personally. So for those that are born with Mercury in Scorpio, this is something you live with. This isn't just a passing influence every year-ish or so. So it's your lifelong way of thinking and communicating. So some benefits of having Mercury in Scorpio is that you are a natural detective. You have an uncanny ability to uncover hidden truths and dig below the surface, kind of just as, what is it, sixth sense about knowing, like, I'm not too sure about that, right? You can be an intense communicator. Words that carry weight, that have insight, that have depth, come easily to you. You could have a really strong psychological insight, like this kind of penetrating understanding of people's motives and what's going on behind what they're doing. You have a very transformative mind. Thinking for you is a process of alchemy. It is turning raw experience into wisdom and very strategic intelligence. You could have a very strong ability to see the power dynamics that are happening in front of you. So definitely great benefit. So someone with Mercury and Scorpio might become a powerful therapist who asks just the right questions that others maybe don't want to ask, or maybe an investigative journalist who exposes corruption, or just a trusted friend, the one that people come to because you're able to hold that space for the darkest secrets without flinching, without judging. Now, some of the I don't want to call them cons, but challenges, let's say, of having Mercury in Scorpio in your natal chart are a tendency possibly towards paranoia, where you're seeing manipulation where there isn't any, right? Taking it too far. Or secrecy, guarding your thoughts so closely that intimacy with others suffers. Or this kind of all or nothing thinking, right? This obsession or dismissal. suspicion or blind trust, like one or the other. You could have manipulation potential, right? Like using insight into other psychology kind of as a leverage. There could be isolation because if you're withholding so much that communication breaks down, or your words are so stinging that it's hard for people to be around. So those are some things to watch out for. You know, any good thing to the extreme is no longer a good thing. And so that's just the energy of Mercury and Scorpio. Can be some great things unless it's taken to the extreme, right? So what are some solutions for dealing with this if you have Mercury and Scorpio in your chart? Well, one is to balance that openness with discretion. So learn when to share and when silence serves. Another would be to transform your obsessions into mastery, right? So direct any fixations or obsessions you might have toward a subject into a more meaningful, dedicated research or art or creative endeavor. Choosing integrity. So using that strategic insight for empowerment and healing, not control. And then trust building, like practice vulnerability with safe people so that you can break any isolation that might have been created. And then totally an awareness of shadow. Notice when suspicion or manipulation starts to take over and redirect that into more conscious dialogue, the big talk that you prefer rather than small talk, right? Just do it more consciously. So the way to maximize these gifts that you have are to use the psychological insight to support healing, therapy, or teaching, to protect others' secrets with integrity so that you become a trusted confidant, to speak words of truth that catalyze growth and transformation, fearlessly investigate the hidden to bring light to shadowed places. That is the need for Scorpio. That is its motivation. And develop mastery in research or occult knowledge or deep storytelling. So Mercury in Scorpio is the mind of transformation. On the global stage, it exposes corruption, taboo conversations. It sharpens our collective dialogue. In our personal lives, it pushes us into honesty, intimacy, and that shadow integration. And if you're born with this placement, it is a lifelong initiatory curriculum to turn words into medicine rather than poison, to wield that communication with the precision of that scorpion tail, and to use truth for healing and empowerment. This is Mercury as the underworld messenger, not speaking for chatter, but for transformation. Its message is clear. Truth heals, depth transforms, and words have the power to cut or to cure. The choice of how to use that power is always ours. So if you would like to explore this further in your personal chart, my premium consultation is for you, and the link to purchase is below. In the meantime, everyone, shine your brilliance.